Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry, and it's time for some more news about the Bloodsword computer game, because we have a new update. Now, it's been a couple of days, but it was the weekend, and I thought I'd throw it up on a weekday, just so more of you could notice, you know. This time, we appear to have a class highlight introducing the Trickster, who's somewhere between your traditional Robin Hood type roguish character and an assassin, and a very sort of acrobatic character. There's lots of different ways the character can be played. So, let's look into this. To Trick by the Blade, Trickster class spotlight. And we have an image here which I'm going to put up big on the screen. Isn't that lovely? I can make it a bit smaller, make it a bit bigger, go up and down a bit. So here we definitely have a bit of an archer motif. It's not easy to tell if these are supposed to be leaves or crystals, small gems, because they look very angular and crystalline down here. But given the way these claws are represented here on the edge of the fur, I would suspect these are supposed to be leaves, to give her a bit of camouflage in the wood. Are you a roguish knave, crouched in a tavern corner, with dice palmed and a purse already half emptied of its coin? Or an assassin in the night, dagger ready, poison gleaming on the blade as you wait for your mark to pass beneath the window? The Trickster can be either, assassin or knave, and many things beside. A tomb robber, a troubleshooter, an explorer, a thief, a gambler, even a hero when necessity demands. Where the warrior trusts in armour and warhorse, and the enchanter in spellbook and wand, the trickster accomplishes his deeds by guile. Assassins are feared and despised for their cowardly ways. Stealth, trickery, and poison are their trade. They slip into guilds and secret brotherhoods, learning to strike where the foe is weakest. To knights they are dishonourable, yet to princes and guildmasters they are a necessary evil. Few adventurers follow this path, barely 1 in 100 by some reckonings, but those who do seldom die of boredom, and we seem to have some assassin artwork here, and they do look very sneaky, very stealthy. Lots of dark colours for hiding in dark alleyways. This woman hides her face. This fellow is more bold, and seems to be more eastern in his approach. I think the eastern country in the World of Legends is called something like Yamato, or it's something very similar to Yamato, but I can't remember exactly. The leg bindings are not mirrored, but the style of the footwear is fairly similar. He's a little more armoured, she's a little more nimble and light on her feet, actually very willowy when it comes to the waist. Knaves are cut from different cloth. Vagabonds and scoundrels, they talk their way past guards, cheat at dice, and swindle their companions as readily as their enemies. Their sharp tongues open doors that locks cannot bar, and their wits win fights without a blade being drawn. Yet when pressed, they are no fools with weapons either. Knaves are the surest shots in legend, loosing arrows with uncanny skill. A bow in their hands can settle matters long before blades cross. Indeed, we have 2 very shooty tricksters with arrows at the ready. Well, he's got an arrow knocked, she's got him still back in the quiver there. Together, assassin and knave form the 2 faces of the trickster profession. Some adventurers fight with brute strength, others with arcane mark. Tricksters live by their wits. If they can win by shooting an arrow from cover or slipping a dagger between ribs, they will. They can wield a sword if pressed, but their true weapon is cunning. In the books, the trickster was always the rogue's role, the liar, the cheat, the dagger in the dark. In the CRPG adaptation, I've taken that foundation and woven it into a full skill tree. You're not the strongest fighter, nor the most potent spellcaster, but you are the one who bends the odds. And probably bends the most as well. Let's take a look, and here we have a nice pictorial representation, and I've got it here full size, just in case we need to refer back to it. Let's see what they've got here. The Handbook of Tricks has Trickster's Touch. Lets you pickpockets, cheat at games, and manipulate locks and objects. I would imagine that is the lock-picking icon right here. Looks like it can be taken up to 3 times as well. Interesting. Cunning grants up to +3 awareness as you invest more and more points, sharpening your senses for traps, ambushes, and ranged precision. I'm going to presume that's the dice for reasons related to the other images down here. So we got our cunning and our sleight of hand, trickster, lockpicking, trickster's touch. Acrobatics unlocks story choices where agility is key. Climbing, leaping, dodging hazards, or slipping bonds. I can think of one instance in the dungeon in Book 1 where acrobatics would be incredibly useful, where the trickster needs to lean across a small alcove and try and pick something from the other side without setting foot on the pressure plate on the floor. And I would imagine that would be this icon, which we may recall from the Fabled Lands computer game from the same developer. I think it's the icon associated with one of the achievements named after the ninja no Chigiri from The Way of the Tiger. Eloquence turns charm into a weapon, opening dialogue paths others cannot. Now that is interesting because occasionally in the books, the sage and very rarely the warrior have dialogue options not available to other classes. So would the sage need to take these options, this skill, to gain those dialogue options, or will there be something in the sage's path as well? Something like learning, as in knowledge, rather than the ability to learn things, as in that which is learned, book learning, and so on, right? And we haven't had a highlight on the sage class yet, have we? Which is interesting. Very rarely, I think on 2 occasions, the warrior has access to, maybe 3, maybe a 3rd time, the warrior has access to dialogue options others do not. But generally it's the trickster who has the most. Dodging technique makes you infuriatingly hard to pin down. At early ranks, enemies add +1 to the roll to hit you. At Mastery, they need roll 3 dice to land a blow, or 4 if you commit to defending. Ah yes, the good old Trickster's Defense from the books. So normally it's 2 dice for an attack, but enemies have to add 1 to the dice roll because you're rolling low, equal to or under, to hit. So that +1 is actually a penalty. So enemies get a 1-point penalty to hit, and then later on it goes up to the best 2 of 3 dice. And if anyone takes the defend option and goes, I'm not attacking on my turn, then the enemy's going to roll 3 dice to hit, or 4 dice if it's a trickster with lots of points in the dodging skill. When you take the offensive, Trickster's arsenal is cruel and inventive. Armor piercing lets daggers, short swords, and throwing weapons ignore armor to some extent. I would imagine that is this icon here. It seems to be... I bet there are warriors who will want to meet the requirements to put a skill point in here for that armor penetration, because it sounds like the sort of thing any warrior worth his salt might be interested in learning. Toxic Rain poisons a target for several turns, dealing damage over time that grows stronger as you invest further. So I presume that's this one. I presume it's not a poisoned arrow. Do they throw a pot of poisoned chemicals over the target or something? It would be interesting to see if there's a physical animation for this attack, or a projectile we see in use. Throwing spikes scatter in a small radius, striking every foe nearby for 1d6 damage, with later ranks adding bleeding. So a d6 damage, it's not a massive amount, and it's not likely to do damage against heavily armoured foes. But I imagine it's this icon. The bleeding penalty could still get through armour and be quite nasty. Which leaves us with the bottom row. Sorry, one moment. Smoke jar blinds and confuses enemies in a thick haze, lowering awareness and even fighting prowess while shutting down ranged attacks. Is this smoke jar? It seems to be capable of going up to 2 levels of specialization. This looks more like an explosive bomb. Maybe the icon is just a placeholder, or perhaps it actually does damage at higher levels. This could be poison rain, but I doubt, because this could possibly be our smoke jar icon, but I doubt it in both cases. Merciless Strikes adds raw damage to every successful attack, scaling up from +1 to +2. I would imagine that is this one. Looks very sharp and spiky and going in, drawing blood. Very nasty. And then Death Vow lets you mark a single target. Each turn, your first strike against them has a 2 in 3 chance of hitting twice. Once sworn, such vows are rarely broken. So it's, I'm really going to keep hitting you. So that's chop, 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 chop. We see the repeated blade image. That does look like one of these 3 is going to get you. Maybe 2 of them. Yeah. So, lots of very combat specialized stuff. We do have the Cunning, Trickster's Touch, and Eloquence foe for non-combat situations, and that's great. What place does the Trickster play in the party? Well, he's kind of like a pinball who bounces around the battlefield. The warrior can get bogged down dealing with any foes. The Sage and Enchanter play a more support. Actually, the Enchanter's more of a blaster. The Sage is more of a support character, fighting where he's needed. The Trickster goes wherever he wants, really. The warrior holds the line, the enchanter bends the arcane, the sage unveils hidden truths. The trickster thrives where no one else dares, in shadows, in whispers, in the thin places between honour and survival. Assassin, knave, a hunter, or something in between, the trickster proves that guile can be sharper than steel. It was a nice little update. I hope we get one on the sage soon, because it does feel like we've had to wait rather a long time for the Trickster. And then hopefully this is all building up to the demo that we can all get to play and experience for ourselves. And I assure you, when it becomes available, I will be featuring the demo on this channel. And we'll have lots of fun with that. Right. Not a lot to say on this one, actually. But hey, Bloodsword is coming. It's going to be fun. I hope you're all as excited for it as I am. But with that, I'm going to say goodbye for now and see you all next time. Cheerio, everyone.